Welcome to the Clear to Send podcast, a podcast about wireless engineering, where we educate you on Wi-Fi technology, talk about design tips, troubleshooting, interviews, and the tools. Here are your hosts, Roel and Francois.
Hi guys, welcome to a brand new episode of the Clear to Send podcast. This is Francois. I'm here with Roel this morning. Hey Roel, how are you?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, and today this is episode 270, and we're going to talk about Juniper Mist, and especially related to some of the topics they presented at Mobility Field Day back in July, and we picked two topics that we wanted to talk about and give our thoughts on. Even though Juniper Mist, they presented a lot of things. I think they presented for like 2 hours or 2 hours and a half.
I think they had the most videos.
Yeah.
I had to get on the treadmill and watch them all because it was quite a lot.
And obviously, they presented about Marvis, about the new stuff they're doing with the AI, their vision for the future and all of this. But they also presented other things that got our attention and that we wanted to approach today on the show. The first thing that we're going to talk about is, a new tool that they released, which is pretty much like their documentation on how to properly design Wi-Fi network. So we'll talk about that. And then the second thing we wanted to talk about is the way Mist is trying to use pre-shared key in different ways to kind of go around some of the limitations we have in the Wi-Fi world today, which I thought was pretty interesting. So maybe we can talk about that as well.
Cool.
In the meantime, if you want to watch all of the videos, all of the presentations, you can head over to YouTube. If you search for Tech Field Day and you look at the Mobility Field Day 6 playlist, you will see all of the videos, and we'll put a link in the show notes as well.
Yep.
So first thing is the design guide. So vendor usually have design guide or design best practices or some sort of document, PDF document that explains how you should design the Wi-Fi network so everything works properly. Well, Mist decided to do it a little different, or Juniper, I should say, decided to do it a little different. And they created this website, which is, I guess, a little bit more interactive. This website where you can actually navigate through different videos and learn about the different phases of, design best practices. And then they tie all of this with, obviously, the Mist product and the Mist dashboard to kind of show you and give you ideas on how you should be doing things.
Yeah, it's not your typical PDF document, like a validated design guide, but it is pretty good. It's a different format, so maybe you're right. It's more interactive, and it is very Ekahau-like to me with the cartoons that they've selected.
Yeah, they actually used cartoons, figures, and they have two characters. They have one which is Misty. She's the young girl and has the Mist personality, and she does everything the right way,
Yeah.
And then you have Stanley, which is like the older personality, and he tends to do stuff not perfectly.
Yeah. No offense to any Stanleys out there.
Yeah, exactly. So they have a lot of cartoons that can, sometimes they're pretty funny if you go through the website.
Yeah, it's a nicely designed site. It's got good information with Juniper's framework of how you should design Wi-Fi with Mist, right? And I think this was a request by a few delegates in the past, because you have this design guide from every other vendor, and with Mist it was just, how do I design specifically for Mist, right? Like, or what's a validated design from Mist? What does that look like? and this is what has came out of that. And of course, this is like their first iteration of it, and I think they can improve upon it as people go through it, and maybe there'll be more questions that come out of it. But so far, it looks pretty good. It is like taking Wi-Fi training, at least, but from what I can tell, it's a good start.
Yeah, and they partnered with Peter McKenzie to come up with, I think, the training part of it, the educational part of it. So Peter recorded a whole bunch of videos, and you can see him explaining different topics, and they've categorized it in 4 different sections: define, design, deploy, diagnose. And for each of these sections, you have different videos that walk you through the process of, how do you define your requirements, designing, a whole bunch of different things, how to do wall attenuation measurements, how to do AP on a stick. And it's not just a video, like Peter actually shows you how to do it in his own office, and that's pretty cool. So, and sometimes you have like extensive videos, like there's one on the warehouse design, which is like half an hour, and Peter goes through how to do, design for warehouse environments, selecting the proper antenna. It goes in Ekahau, shows you what it looks like in Ekahau. So it's actually impressive, the amount of content and the quality of the content they have. That's available for free for everyone. If you go to design.mist.com, or if you go to mist.com/design, you'll be able to navigate and watch all of these videos.
Yeah, some of it's still under development, but if you look at the different content that they have, they will give you the MIST design guidelines. So for example, voice and video design, they tell you what to aim for the primary signal, what minimum secondary signal, what SNR you should aim for, and what band, how many simultaneous VoIP calls per radio that they recommend. So it's good stuff. I think that's what we've been looking for with MIST. And
the cartoons are funny.
Yeah, it's different, right?
You always have the Stanley talk, and then the Misty way of thinking. So yeah, no, you'll have fun looking at them. Like for the wall attenuation, you can see Stanley is knocking on the wall, and he's like, "Well, it's just a partition wall, no problem. You'll get a good signal on the other side."
And I'm sure that happens. Like that is an actual event, right?
Yeah. So, anyways, that was a nice, I guess, addition to some of the education you can get around MIST. So you can take a look at this, design.mist.com, and take a look at that.
Awesome.
I guess one thing that's not fully related to that, but also one thing they announced is that they are giving 90% discount for CWNEs that want to attend the 4-day live MIST training course. So that was a nice thing from MIST.
Yeah, is that a typo? 90%?
No, it's 90. It's not a typo.
Wow.
90. So if you were CWNE and you want to attend the 4-day live, MIST training, then you can get 90% off the price. So I think the price is it brings the price down to $380, something like that.
Wow, that's a steal.
Which is a steal, yeah.
Yeah. So which certification is this for? Do you know?
That's preparing you for the GNCIS MIST AI.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so that's like the second level of the Juniper certification. The first level would be GNCIA MIST AI, and then second level is GNCIS MIST AI.
Okay.
Yeah,
very cool.
So Peter gives the training, I give the training to as well, and Raymond Hendricks gives the training, among other people too.
All right, so we got some even good instructors for this too.
Hopefully. Anyway, So that's the first thing we wanted to talk about. Second thing is the pre-shared key stuff, pre-shared key discussion, because the way Mist approached it was talking about IoT, and they were talking about the fact that a lot of IoT devices don't support .1x. So how do you actually secure the connection of these devices onto your Wi-Fi networks? And one solution is by using the multiple pre-shared keys, so you can have different pre-shared keys to connect to a single SSID. And that's a nice solution. I really like that solution, but sometimes it can be very hard to kind of manage all of the pre-shared keys. Yeah, because you end up having 100,000 of pre-shared keys, and then if you need to update the pre-shared key once in a while to maintain the security, then it becomes a nightmare.
Even the handout of these pre-shared keys. So the other way they call this is ppsk. If you're familiar with it, different vendors call it different names sometimes. But if you guys remember back in a couple of mobility field days when they were talking about like dorm settings, they talked about multiple pre-shared keys and how you could give one student a pre-shared key for all his devices, and he would see all his devices on the network, but he wouldn't see his neighbor's devices, right? The other students' devices. And so that was, I remember that's when they first introduced the multiple pre-shared key.
Mm-hmm. And like you're right, I think every vendor have their own flavor of it. And one thing that's nice with these pre-shared keys is that you can use them for different purposes. You can use them for, secure the IoT devices that don't support .1x, but you can also use them to identify devices. And that's something we don't really think about, at first. But, for instance, in my house, I did it for my TV. Like I gave my TV a specific pre-shared key. So now when I see a device that connects with that pre-shared key, I know it's my TV. If you have multiple TVs, you could have one pre-shared key that you share between your TV, for instance, as well. So you could identify devices using the pre-shared key instead of identifying the user or the client devices using other mechanism we used to. Usually
like
we use the MAC address.
Yep.
Yeah, the MAC address or the username if you use .1x.
Right. So the reason why we would use this multiple pre-shared key is because of the MAC randomization, right?
Yeah, with MAC randomization, we have this issue of not being able to identify users or client devices, because they might come one day, connect with a MAC address, come back the next day, come back with another MAC address. So from the system standpoint, that's going to be two different client devices where in fact it's the same device. So the pre-shared key could be a way to identify, devices in our environment and go around, the problem that we have with MAC randomization. And the problem with MAC randomization, should deserve another episode, but it's gonna be even more a problem in the future. That problem is gonna grow in the future. We kind of have to find solutions on the infrastructure end to go around that problem, and having multiple pre-shared keys could be one solution. The only issue is now you're going to end up with a whole bunch of pre-shared keys to manage, and that's the problem that Mist tried to address. And so they have this section in the UI, in the dashboard, where you can actually manage your pre-shared key. So if you need to cycle the pre-shared key, you have like a way to do it. Make sure that you're still keeping the old key active while people are transitioning to the new key. And then when the new key is operational, fully active, you can remove the other key. And then they also classify, the keys by, type of devices. So you can have an idea of what type of devices you have in your environment. So I think they're starting to work on it, maybe as a solution to, be able to identify a group of devices or different devices on the environment by using something else than using the MAC address.
And was that a solution that Mist is doing themselves, or was that kind of a third-party integration using API?
No, that's that's something that Mist is doing themselves in the dashboard. So
Okay.
under your organization menu, you will have another a section that's called pre-shared keys, and you can handle all of your pre-shared keys.
Okay.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, if you have, hundred of devices that you need to provision and configure, obviously that's where you would leverage the API.
Yeah, for sure.
To
Especially
do this.
a campus environment, that would be a ton of pre-shared keys.
Yeah.
And I think you're alluding to that video of Thomas doing his integration, right, with API.
Yeah, and that's also something that they presented at Mobility Field Day. They had Thomas Menzer presented a couple of application he created leveraging the Mist API. One of them was just a simple web page that would allow people to change VLANs on switches.
Yep.
Which
That's
was
pretty cool. Yeah. That tool is actually really useful in an environment like a campus environment. And I know we do this on the campus that I'm on. I don't know if it's using API, but it is just a page that only shows the switch that someone has access to, and they just see the interfaces, and they can change the VLAN for a switch port, and it's only the VLANs that are on that switch. They can't add any VLANs. They can't remove any VLANs. It's a way to alleviate some of the workload from maybe a network engineer if someone just simply needs a VLAN change, right? We call it a VLAN change tool.
Yeah, so that was exactly the aim of that tool. And then he also presented another tool where someone could manage their own pre-shared keys.
Yeah, that tool I thought was really impressive, done just by one person.
Yeah, so it has I guess there's the back end and the front end, and he was talking about an environment where you would have students and you would provide a personal pre-shared key to each of the students, and then if you have a student that can't remember their key or lost their keys, instead of having the student contacting the IT help desk and getting a new keys or whatnot, they could just log into their own portal and then from there retrieve their key or display those QR codes, so they can scan the QR codes and automatically configure the devices, or they could delete the key, and they could have a simple portal to kind of manage their own pre-shared key without having to interact with the IT help desk.
And it was a single sign-on too, so if the user use their business email
university credential,
exactly. Yeah. And it was very simple. It was a clean interface. I really like the QR code integration, and it wasn't too cluttered. Being able to, for me, it's a good way to see an example of what you could do with the API using this tool with the pre-shared key, kind of like your self-service, and then doing the VLAN change tool using API. Very simple interface as well.
Yeah, and I think what Thomas didn't have the time to show us is the back end. But on the back end, you can actually generate multiple keys for the students, right? And then you can assign VLANs to the pre-shared keys. That's also something you can do with the API with Mist. So if you have, I don't know, if you have like a university SSID and you want the prof to connect, you want the students to connect, but you don't want to put them on the same VLAN, you could actually assign a VLAN, like as a student VLAN, to the pre-shared key you give to the students. You can assign like a prof VLAN to the pre-shared key you give to the profs, and then they could be on their own VLAN. Right. You could segment the traffic that way.
And probably tie that into the policies as well. I'm sure you could leverage API to tie whatever they're doing, whatever that user is doing, to a specific policy.
Yeah, well, if you put them in different VLAN, then you can leverage those, to apply different policies. So that's a nice way to leverage API, especially when you have to, distribute a lot of these pre-shared keys are,
exactly.
configure your IoT devices.
They don't need to do a help desk ticket or inundate the help desk team. You can just create a knowledge base article that tells them what they need to do, and they do it themselves.
Yeah, so I think it was interesting because usually, like, in networks, in Wi-Fi security, pre-shared key is usually not the best way of doing things. We try to always encourage our customers to use .1x. And then if we have to resort to PSK, it has to be like a long and complex PSK. It has to be rotated once in a while, and it's cumbersome. It's not easy to maintain, So it's interesting to see, different vendors finding different solution. And it was interesting to me to see that maybe pre-shared key could be a solution to one of the issue we're going to have with micro-randomization more and more. So, we'll see how that goes. I know that depending on the security, so if we have .1x, we can identify, the client devices with the username, for instance. So we don't necessarily need the MAC address. If we have PSK, maybe we could use pre-shared keys to identify the users. And in case of guest, maybe we can, I know Mist is pushing quite a bit to have, customers deploy their own application using the Mist SDK, to provide a better experience for their users. And if you have that, you can identify users another way. But in the future, maybe we could think of open roaming and those type of solutions to maybe identify users.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of different solutions available, or I wouldn't say a lot, but there's going to be options available. I think PSK is just simple, right? So people prefer simple.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I would invite you guys to watch the videos where they talk about it. I think the title of the video is related to IoT, but most of the video is kind of like of a demo of that new pre-shared key interface, which was interesting. And then if you want to watch the demos from Thomas, he demos the product. Thomas also published everything on his GitHub. So if you want to try it for yourself, if you have a Mist account and you want to try to install, the switch operator dashboard or the multiple pre-shared key manager, you can actually do that on your own for your own organization if you go to the Thomas GitHub. So we'll put the link in the show notes if you guys are interested to try that out for yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Awesome. I think that's it for Juniper Mist. Obviously, they've talked about a whole bunch of stuff that you might also be interested in. So
it's a lot of just updates to what they're working on. But these two items were particularly interesting for us. But if you want to see some of the updates to their SLEs and to Marvis, what the next versions of the SLEs that are coming out, then go ahead and check out the videos.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good week.
Bye.